Welcome to Maldiv's 2013 Washington, D.C. Awards Gala. Tonight is brought to you by the generous support of Walmart, helping communities save money and live better. Comcast, investing in diversity programs that strengthen digital literacy, community service, volunteerism, and building tomorrow's leaders. The law firm of Fried Frank, Harris, Schreiber, and Jacobson, where diversity, individuality, and inclusion are standard principles. Maldiv is grateful for the support of its national sponsors: Anheuser-Busch, McDonald's, the Sidley Austin Foundation, Sodexo, Southwest Airlines, Toyota, and Univision. Maldiv is proud to honor the Director of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, Alejandro Mayorkas, the CEO of Girl Scouts of the USA, Ana Maria Chavez, and the former Secretary of the United States Department of the Interior, the Honorable Ken Salazar. Please welcome your Master of Ceremonies for this evening, ABC News correspondent and the host of Primetime What Would You Do, John Quiñones.
Hello. Buenas noches. Good evening. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Maldiv's 2013 Washington, D.C. Awards Gala. I'm honored to be your host this evening. We come together as a community, not only to celebrate Maldiv's hard work over the past year, but also to pay tribute to our distinguished honorees. On behalf of Maldiv, I thank all of you for joining us. Tonight would not be possible without your support. Maldiv was founded in 1968 in San Antonio, Texas, a city... It is a city that I'm very familiar with. I was born in the barrios on the west side of San Antonio. And it was at a time back in 1968 when the Mexican community was being subjected to blatant discriminatory treatment. A group of brave lawyers united to combat these injustices, and Maldiv was formed. We have made significant gains in the area of civil rights in this country, but we still have a long road ahead. And Maldiv will continue to fight the good fight, as we say in San Antonio, la buena lucha. The truth is that Latinos have been an important part of our nation for well over a century and a half. The Latino community has a robust historical record of patriotic service to the United States, with significant, albeit too often ignored, representation among our nation's military heroes. This, yes, how about a hand for them, huh? This patriotic record continues to the present as recent waves of immigrants and native-born Latinos take up public service in many forms, and those include courageously stepping forward to defend our constitutional values against efforts such as unfair and discriminatory laws that would undermine those unifying national principles. I ask you to please stand for a short film entitled America, Our Home. Please stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars arms through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free and the home of the brave? Bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free and the home of the brave? The brave.
Wow. What an excellent, excellent piece. Latinos are indeed patriotic. It's with pleasure that I introduce Maldiv's Washington, D.C.'s Regional Counsel, who's built his public interest career in authoring and lobbying for civil rights and civil liberties legislation at the federal, the state, and the local level. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Maldiv's Washington, D.C.'s Regional Counsel, Jim Ferg Kadima. Jim.
Good evening, buenas noches. It's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening. Our program will celebrate the careers and accomplishments of some impressive folks who have dedicated themselves to safeguarding and expanding the civil rights of the Latino community. As you'll shortly see, through accolades, through videos, and tributes, we owe them a great deal for their selflessness and courage. Before we turn forward and focus on their good works, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the focus of Maldiv this past year. Since last summer, Maldiv DC has taken up immigration reforms, from those that are narrowly focused on certain immigrant sectors to broader, sweeping reforms that fix our broken immigration system for once and for all. I'm pleased to announce that there was a successful reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, and that is, yes. This is definitely one tangible reform that we saw. This reform brought about changes to federal law that better addresses the needs of immigrant women, the LGBT community, and tribal nations confronting domestic violence on a daily basis. Bucking the recent trend of congressional stalemates, earlier this year, Congress delivered a bipartisan reauthorization to the president's desk with his signature, provisions to help immigrants of U visa recipients from aging out, and insurance that the survival of valid petitions from immigrant children of deceased petitioners became law. Those are incredibly important developments in our federal law. I also point to DACA. Since announced in June 2012, Maldives has Maldives has worked to raise awareness about Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival initiative from Department of Homeland Security, more commonly known as DACA. We have produced educational materials, held trainings around the country, and engaged USCIS and sister agencies to better address the Latino community-focused implementation issues for our community. For example, we focused on preventing financial institutions from gouging DACA applicants for old bank records and check cashing records. We've encouraged guidance to help applicants better obtain their school records needed to apply, and most importantly, we are continuing to advocate against a rule that bars DACA holders from many healthcare benefits under the Affordable Care Act. But the issue of the day, and what I'm most excited about, what's on the horizon for all of us, is immigration reform. Our last and most pressing is our collective charge to see immigration reform through this year. Shortly after the November elections, Maldives, in collaboration with other national Latino organizations through the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda, fully engaged both chambers and sides of the aisle, from Speaker Boehner's office all the way to Senator Reed's office, seeking support for swift action and a roadmap for citizenship for the 11 million undocumented immigrants in our country. While we still await the House approach, that's still evolving, Monday marked the second hearing of the bipartisan Senate bill. Monday also marked the third time an undocumented immigrant testified before the Senate Judiciary. But this is the first time that voice and face of the undocumented was from the Latino community. The powerful and moving words of Gabby Pacheco should inspire us all here tonight to rally to see that Congress delivers on common sense and just immigration reform this year. In closing, my belated thanks and boundless appreciation to all Maldivians that made this work possible this past year. This includes our former colleagues Veronica Rivera, Aidin Castillo, and Marisela Lechuga. And of course, it includes our current staff, Adam Fernandez, Amanda Villarreal, Amy Pedersen, Jose Magaña Salgado, Lorena Mares, and Tico Almeida. Now, it's with deep appreciation that I introduce one of Maldives' national partners. Sodexo has enabled Maldives to integrate a nutrition and health component into our parent-school partnership program nationwide. With support from Sodexo, Maldives has not only trained parents on their rights and responsibilities in public schools, but is now integrating a broader focus on improving overall health and wellness outcomes for families of Maldives' parent-school partnership program. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Rohini Anand, Senior Vice President and Global Chief Diversity Officer for Sodexo.
Buenas noches, everyone. Good evening. It's wonderful to be here, and I want to thank Tom and James and the entire Maldives team for your partnership and for the support of the PSP program. It's a very significant, very important program that brings together parents and children to educate them about health and wellness. And health and wellness for Sodexo are top priorities. They're part of our commitment to corporate social responsibility and part of our Better Tomorrow plan. And we seek to improve the quality of life in our communities through our Better Tomorrow plan. Sodexo partners with Maldives and the PSP initiative in approximately 10 cities, including Chicago, LA, Atlanta, and in Texas. And I had the opportunity to attend one of these sessions on a Saturday morning last year. And for someone who does not cook and does not particularly like to cook, I was a captive audience and very involved for about 3 to 4 hours, while our chefs taught mothers, mostly Latina mothers, and children ranging from about 6 months to 18 years about healthy diet and cooking. I learned an amazing amount about ingredients, about portion size, and the best way to cook rice. Who knew that I was doing it wrong all along? What was best was the fact that the mothers and the children and teenagers were engaged and paid attention for the entire time. They learned, shared information about processed foods, about fat and calorie content. They learned how nutritious and flavorful breakfast quesadillas, tomato and red pepper soup, and whole wheat pancakes could be made using ingredients that they were familiar with. They tasted the foods, they asked a lot of questions, guessed portion sizes and cereal boxes, and Chef Sterling, one of Sodexo's most committed and dynamic chefs, led the session and absolutely entranced the audience, and he has actually trained 10 Sodexo chefs across the country to duplicate this event, and Chef Sterling is with us today in the audience. Thank you, Chef Sterling. Clearly, this was the most meaningful way for me to spend a Saturday morning, and it's just one way that Sodexo and MALDEF improve the quality of life in the communities in which we live, work, and serve. Thank you, MALDEF, for your leadership and for your partnership as it allows us to make a difference in the health and wellness of our communities, and thank you for the work that you do in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Sodexo, for all you do to support MALDEF. And as you know, I host the show, What Would You Do? And we're in the middle of shooting the new season. I remind you that we can hide those cameras anywhere. So if the person next to you passes out and you step over them to go get a drink, you're going to have me to talk to him. The show starts May 31st. Now, it is my honor to introduce our first honoree of the evening. The Excellence in Community Service Award goes to a leader from Arizona. Her keen intellect and forward-thinking vision is systematically changing the opportunities and life outcomes of future generations of young girls throughout the country. She's a lifetime member of Girl Scouts, whose leadership in public service and the nonprofit sector has been widely recognized. Prior to her appointment as CEO of Girl Scouts of the USA, she served as CEO of the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas and as Deputy Chief of Staff for Urban Relations and Community Development for the former Governor of Arizona and the current U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano. Yes. She holds a Juris Doctorate from the University of Arizona and a College of Law and from the University of Arizona College of Law, and a BA in American History from Yale University. She's a great representative and role model for Latinas and Latinos everywhere. Let's take a look at Ana Maria Chavez's video profile.
My friends, we have something precious. We are something precious. The world is waiting for a leader to step forward in the name of girls and women. We are that leader.
The first time I met Ana, we were both being interviewed by Fortune magazine. And I was taken by how she articulated the vision of the Girl Scouts and really brought it into very sharp focus.
When I heard that Ana Maria had been chosen to be the CEO of Girl Scouts, I thought what a terrific opportunity to really showcase to the world what Latinas can really do. And there was no better person to do that than somebody like Ana Maria. And I also understood that she was going to take Girl Scouts to the next level.
It was really important that we had someone who was very good at communicating the value of the Girl Scout brand through the 100th anniversary process, and also someone who was representative of the American population, someone who had those skills and that background that would really be a positive reflection for the girls.
Ana Maria is somebody who can really communicate in the simplest terms what it is that the Girl Scouts do, what it is that the Girl Scouts are learning, and how it is that every single girl that goes through the Girl Scouts program has the potential to make a difference in American society.
With someone like Ana who is helping to set the path forward, girls have an opportunity to really be guided down the path and understand what it takes in order to get there.
When you grow up in a country where you have role models like Ana Maria, it almost becomes second nature. It's not even that little girls are asking themselves, oh, do you think I can be an advisor to the president? Do you think I can, be at the highest levels of state government? No, they don't even ask that question because they've seen someone who looks like them in Ana Maria play that role. And so it automatically becomes a career choice for them. No questions asked. And that is what makes her so valuable.
Our girls are telling us what they need. They need encouragement. They need someone to tell them anything is possible because they can.
She's a visionary leader, one that honestly believes in giving back to the community that she came from. And the thing that I attribute that to most, in my mind, is simply the way that she was brought up. It's simply the environment in which she grew up. It was a humble, hardworking, collaborative and loving environment that taught her that we all have an accountability, that we all have a responsibility to open the doors for those that come after us.
She could be doing so many other things. She could be making so much more money. She could be continuing to make a name for herself, but she is choosing to carry on a career that gives back to her community, that gives back to young children, and that I think underscores for a lot of our young people the promise of the American dream. And to me that speaks volumes of her character, of how she was brought up, and I think of what she took away from Girl Scouts when she was one in her youth.
Ana is just that great example, again, of someone who believes in the fact that you buckle down, you focus on a goal, you help each other out, and everybody moves forward together.
There is no doubt in my mind that this woman deserves every accolade that every organization could heap upon her. I think she has set the standard, and this is not a Hispanic standard. This is not, she's doing great as a Latina. She's doing great as an American woman, as a mother, as a professional. And so the standard has been set. It just so happens that it was set by a woman of Hispanic descent. And for that reason alone, she deserves to be acknowledged.
All of us are going to work together to continue the legacy of that leadership that was founded by Julie Gordon Low and to fill the critical roles in guiding girls on their leadership journey. I know, because that's what this organization gave to me. My name is Ana Maria Chavez, and I am a Girl Scout.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Maldives' recipient of the Excellence in Community Service Award, Ana Maria Chavez.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. I am so happy to be here. You know, I left my wonderful husband and son at home tonight because they had lacrosse. But I know that tonight is so special because I have so many friends in the audience today that have come out to support me. You know, tonight, being in the company of such distinguished leaders who are doing amazing work really, really inspires me in the work I do on a daily basis. I'm truly honored to accept this award for excellence in community service from MALDEF on behalf of the entire Girl Scout family. We are 3 million strong in 92 countries, and we have 59 million living alumni in the United States. Yes. The Girl Scout movement is all about recognizing the unique potential locked within every American girl. Our movement encourages girls to engage in civic life and community service by creating projects that make the world a better place. Service to others is an intrinsic aspect of Girl Scouting, a foundational principle of our organization that teaches girls that when they engage in the world around them, they can change it for the better. Through experiences serving in their communities, girls develop their courage, confidence, and character that unleash their true potential and leverage their unique abilities for the good of all. The Girl Scouts have a long, proud legacy of inclusion, of reaching out to girls and young women in every ethnicity, religion, culture, walk of life, every zip code in this country, and inviting them to join a community especially built for them. One that values their contributions as girls and that seeks to recognize and nurture the special talents they each possess. Latina girls are America's fastest growing minority group and are poised to one day be America's leaders in business, politics, athletics, the performing arts, and anything else they put their mind to. At Girl Scouts, we endeavor to reach more Latina girls across the United States and the movement and the world, and invite them to develop the skills that unlock the talents hidden within. Every girl has a unique voice, a beautiful voice, and an important contribution to make to the rich fabric of American life. It has been my honor, my privilege, to work within and throughout the Latina community to engage more girls in the Girl Scout movement and to help develop the next generation of Hispanic leaders, of American leaders. I want to thank everybody from MALDEF for honoring me with this prestigious award, especially your wonderful President and General Counsel, Mr. Tom Saenz. Woo! Mr. Javier Palomares, the CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who I adore, and Ms. Maria Cardona, my dear, dear friend, and Ms. And Ms. Lisa Gable, a member of our National Board of Directors for Girl Scouts of the USA, who you saw on the video tonight. I also want to give a shout out to my date this evening, the CEO of the local Girl Scout Council here in the DC area, Lydia Soto Harmon. Who, by the way, brought the Girl Scout cookies that are in your gift bag. Thank you again for this tremendous honor and for everything you do to help reach out to Latinas across this country. Thank you. Buenas noches.
Gracias. Thank you, Ana Maria Chavez, for your continued commitment to ensuring that our girls in this country grow smarter, stronger, and more independent here in the United States. Don't forget about those cookies that are in your bags. Compliments of the Girl Scouts of the nation's capital. It is an honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. He is a man of great integrity and of great vision. Handpicked by President Obama, Attorney General Eric H. Holder Jr. was sworn in as the 82nd Attorney General of the United States on February 3rd, 2009. A native of New York City, Attorney General Holder attended public schools there. He then attended Columbia College, where he majored in American history and went on to pursue his law degree at Columbia Law School. While in law school, he clerked at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the Department of Justice's Criminal Division. Upon graduating, he moved to Washington and joined the Department of Justice as part of the Attorney General's Honors Program. In 1988, Mr. Holder was nominated by President Reagan to become an associate judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. And in 1997, Mr. Holder was named by President Clinton to be the Deputy Attorney General, the first African American named to that position. Prior to becoming Attorney General, Mr. Holder was a litigation partner at the law firm Covington and Burling, LLP. They're here with us tonight, as you can hear. And Mr. Holder now lives in Washington, D.C., right here, with his wife, Dr. Sharon Malone, a physician, and their 3 teenaged children. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome United States Attorney General Eric Holder.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good evening. I was telling John that was a good introduction until he started mentioning some dates here. I'm at an age, you just kind of just give the bio, but don't mention any dates, because then people start calculating and go, damn, he's old, So thank you, John, Thank you all for such a warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be in such great company this evening, and it's a privilege to join so many friends, so many colleagues, so many committed partners and distinguished award recipients for tonight's really important celebration. I want to thank Tom Saenz for his strong leadership since becoming president and general counsel of the, yes, that's fine. And he knows how to tie a bow tie. That's a real skill. His leadership since becoming president and general counsel of the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund in 2009. I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of MALDEF's National Board of Directors, regional office leaders, professional staff, supporters, and sponsors, not only in ensuring that this organization remains America's leading law firm of the Latino community, but in advancing equality, opportunity, and justice. And I'd like to thank tonight's honorees, Ana Marie Chavez, yes? There you go. It says here, Director Alejandro Mayorkas. That's Ali Mayorkas, my good friend, and my good friend, Interior Secretary Ken Salazar, who I sit next to in all of the State of the Unions, and he's always trying to make me laugh, So it's going to miss you next January, man. I want to thank them for their leadership and for their essential efforts, for the remarkable achievements that were gathered to celebrate, and for the service that each of them has rendered to their communities and their country by helping to build engagement, address disparities, and to overcome injustice wherever it is found. Now, tonight's awards gala presents, I think, an important opportunity for everyone here to renew our shared commitment to this work and to the cause of equality that we've come together to advance. This cause has served as a unifying vision and a rallying cry since the day MALDEF was founded 4.5 decades ago, when a group of concerned citizens gathered in San Antonio, Texas, to put forward a vision of hope in a time of difficulty and a year that was defined by national tragedy. During the spring and summer of 1968, with the shocking murders of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, the country and the civil rights movement were really badly shaken. In cities and towns across America, peaceful activists faced misguided legal actions, abusive words, and threats of violence. In East Los Angeles, California, thousands of Latino high school students walked out of their classrooms to protest discrimination in the public school system. And although our nation had made significant strides since the days of Bull Connor, the Freedom Rides, and the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church, in 1968, the future of the progress to which Dr. King, Senator Kennedy, and so many others had dedicated their lives was anything but certain. Yet MALDEF's founders were not only undaunted, they were defiantly optimistic. With assistance from the Ford Foundation and help from other civil rights groups such as LULAC and the NAACP, MALDEF built a strong base of support and began to intervene in civil legal aid cases. Well, over the next 45 years, as this organization grew and its work broadened, your dedication to the values of equity and inclusion has remained steadfast. Through educational outreach, legislative advocacy, community engagement, and principled litigation, you've consistently fought to secure the rights of immigrants and underserved populations. You've played a key role in high-profile policy debates and Supreme Court cases. And you've taken difficult stands against long odds and sometimes steep opposition to expand education and employment, to bridge long-standing divisions, and to see ultimately that justice is done. In a variety of ways, MALDEF has helped to bring about meaningful changes from America's schools and workplaces to our housing and lending markets, border areas, and immigrant communities. And time and again, you've stood up and spoken out for equal opportunity and equal rights. And as we assemble tonight, here in our nation's capital, your efforts are continuing to make a powerful difference, particularly when it comes to our ongoing struggle to safeguard the single, most fundamental, and most powerful right of American citizenship, and that's the right to vote. Now, as you know, in recent years, we've seen an unprecedented number of lawsuits challenging the constitutionality of one of our most effective tools for preventing discrimination in our election system, Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This landmark provision was a signature achievement of the civil rights movement. It requires all or parts of 15 states with histories of discrimination to obtain approval from either the Justice Department or a panel of federal judges for any proposed changes in voting procedures or practices, including redistricting plans, early voting procedures, and photo identification requirements, some of which may disproportionately impact young, poor, elderly, and minority voters. Now, there has long been a national bipartisan consensus that this important law is not only necessary, but good for our democracy. Unfortunately, and despite this consensus and the overwhelming congressional majority that voted to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act as recently as 2006, the Supreme Court recently heard a case challenging Section 5, contending that it is no longer constitutional, and arguing that our nation has moved beyond the realities that prompted its passage and its recent renewal. Well, let me be clear. While this country has indeed changed, and real progress has been made thanks to groups like MALDEF and many others, we are not yet at a point where the most vital part of the Voting Rights Act can be described as unnecessary or, and I say this with all due respect, or a product of a flawed political process. Justice Scalia is wrong. That's why That's why today's Justice Department has vigorously defended Section 5 as an indispensable tool for eradicating discriminatory election practices. It's why MALDEF has stood shoulder to shoulder with us in this effort, filing an amicus brief arguing that Section 5 must be upheld and working hard to safeguard the rights of language minorities. And it's why, no matter the outcome of this important case, my colleagues and I will remain committed to the aggressive and appropriate enforcement of every federal voting and civil rights protection that's on the books. What we cannot and what we will not do is stand by and allow the slow unraveling of an electoral system that so many have sacrificed so much to construct. We must not countenance procedural abuses or consider unwise proposed changes, such as shortened voting periods, that are inconsistent with the historic ideal of expanded participation in the process. We must take action together to address certainly long lines, which are unnecessary and may depress turnout among certain voting populations. And we must speak out against recent proposed changes in how electoral votes are apportioned, how they are counted in specific states, and call such proposals what they are: blatantly partisan, unfair, divisive, and not worthy of our nation. Above all, we must stand together to honor the basic principles of equal treatment and fair representation that have always been at the center of our identity as a nation, that have driven MALDEF to fight for expanded access and social change in the public arena, and that have stood at the core of the Justice Department's recent efforts to enforce voting laws and a range of other essential civil rights protections. Now, especially over the past 4 years, under the leadership of Assistant Attorney General and Secretary of Labor designate Tom Perez, the department's Civil Rights Division, we're going to take out that designate part real soon. It's going to be Secretary of Labor Tom Perez. Under Tom, the department's Civil Rights Division has taken this work to new heights, striving to reduce violence, to eliminate bias, and to combat intimidation. We have significantly increased hate crimes prosecutions, and we have opened a record number of inquiries into local police departments and other agencies to ensure constitutional policing practices. In addition, we have taken steps to address discrimination in schools and to protect the right of all children to enroll, regardless of immigration status. Through our Office on Violence Against Women, we're implementing legislative improvements like the reauthorized, which took too long to do, the Reauthorized Violence Against Women Act, which MALDEF helped to secure, and which includes increased protections for immigrants, LGBT men and women in tribal communities. Why this was controversial is truly, truly beyond me. And we're building reinvigorated partnerships with key international authorities, particularly Mexican leaders, to combat the repugnant practice of human trafficking. Over the past 4 years, these efforts have enabled the department to charge a record number of human trafficking cases. Just yesterday, I traveled to Mexico City and met with my Mexican counterparts to discuss the administration's plan to build on this work and to address other shared law enforcement and criminal justice challenges. I was proud to help strengthen the bonds of friendship that the United States has forged with Mexico and other allies throughout Latin America, and to reaffirm my personal and professional commitment to the values that our people have always shared. Yet I recognize that although we can be encouraged by these recent steps forward and by the remarkable progress that we've seen in the years since this organization was founded, there's also no denying that significant obstacles remain before us. Among these challenges, none is more important. None is more urgent than the need to enact common sense, comprehensive legislation that reforms, improves, and makes more fair our nation's broken immigration system. As it stands, too many employers game the system by hiring and by exploiting undocumented workers. Far too many people are relegated to living in the shadows without the rights, without the dignity, and without the legal protections that they deserve. And the escalating costs of this broken system, in terms both economic and moral, are simply too much to bear. As President Obama has made clear, it is long past time to reform our immigration system in a way that is fair, that guarantees that all are playing by the same rules, and that requires responsibility from everyone, both the people who are here in an undocumented status and from those who hire them. Creating a pathway to earned citizenship for the 11 million unauthorized immigrants in this country is absolutely essential. The way we treat our friends and neighbors who are undocumented, by creating a mechanism for them to earn citizenship and to move out of the shadows, transcends the issue of immigration status. This is a matter of civil and human rights. It is about who we are as a nation, and it goes to the core of our treasured American principle of equal opportunity. Now, like many of you, I have been encouraged to see that the bipartisan reforms currently under discussion in the United States Senate are consistent with these basic principles. I look forward to working with members of Congress and groups like this one to help refine and to improve these proposals. The Senate Judiciary Committee markup of legislation next month will provide us all with an opportunity to do exactly this. And as this debate unfolds, I'm optimistic that if we continue to work together, we can move forward to make our nation stronger, more secure, and more prosperous by building a fair and effective system that lives up to our heritage as a nation of laws. And never let us forget, a nation built by immigrants. After so many years of work by Malduff and many others, today our shared goal of meaningful reform is a real possibility. Just as in the past you have opened the doors of educational opportunity and protected the rights of Latinos at the ballot box, so today we can also stand together in achieving common sense, comprehensive immigration reform and honoring the American story in its most basic form. For centuries, courageous women and men from every corner of the globe have set their sights on these shores, our shores, driven by little more than their hope for a better life and their dream for a brighter future for their children. Many have crossed vast oceans, harsh deserts, and great cultural divides to make that dream a reality. This is the dream that many years ago inspired my own family to come to this country, just as it has inspired so many of yours. Now, although I'm a native New Yorker by birth as well as by upbringing, I'm proud to say I was raised in a home infused with traditions and values that my father and all of my grandparents brought with them from the great island of Barbados. I was fortunate to spend many of my formative years in a neighborhood that was populated largely by immigrants, among wonderful, hardworking people who championed education, understood the importance of family, and constantly reinforced the value of tolerance and of respect. These principles are reflected in this Justice Department's efforts to enforce protections against racial and ethnic discrimination, as well as existing immigration laws. They will continue to guide our work to fairly adjudicate immigration cases and to hold accountable employers who knowingly hire undocumented workers or engage in illegal or discriminatory practices. And they drove the administration just last summer to announce that certain young people brought to this country legally by their parents, though through no fault of their own, but who pose no risk to public safety or national security, and who enrich our nation, may now receive relief from removal and apply for a work authorization through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals process. Thanks to, Thanks to Malduff and many others in the legal community, many young people were given the basic information and the legal assistance that they needed to come forward and to request relief under this process. Their dream must be ours as well. This common sense approach to focusing our enforcement resources will help to make our immigration policy not only more efficient and cost effective, but more just. It represents a step in the right direction, but it's far from a permanent solution. And by itself, it will never be enough. Again, the time for comprehensive immigration reform is right now. So as we gather this evening to celebrate the positive steps that we've taken and to discuss the challenges ahead, we must also seize this chance to reaffirm our collective resolve to build on the record of achievement that we have established. Although we come together, as your founders did, in an hour of need, it's also a time of significant opportunity and of limitless promise. Thanks to the work of committed leaders and passionate advocates in this room, and our partners throughout the Obama administration and across the country, and patriots and friends like Ali and Ken, I'm confident that the months ahead will be marked by deeper engagement between government leaders, policymakers, and advocates from across the political spectrum. I'm eager to see where each of you will help to lead us from here. And I'm optimistic about the dialogue that we will build and the country and future that we will create together. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Attorney General Holder, for joining us this evening. And now our Excellence in Government Service honoree is none other than the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas. Mayorkas, Al, is a leader who has worked to ensure the integrity of this country's immigration system. Born in Havana, Cuba, and having grown up in California, Mr. Mayorkas is a graduate of the University of California at Berkeley and holds a JD from Loyola Law School. He served as an assistant to the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California from 1989 to 1998, later becoming U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, the youngest U.S. Attorney in the nation at that time. From 2001 until his USCIS appointment, Mr. Mayorkas was a partner with the law firm O'Melveny and Myers. Mr. Alejandro Mayorkas was nominated by President Obama in April 2009 and was unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate in August. As director of the USCIS, he leads the agency within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, charged with operating the largest immigration system in the world. Please direct your attention to the video profile Maldev has produced for the director.
I think the first time I ever met Director Mayorkas was in a meeting with Secretary Napolitano discussing how to make some of the tools to help keep immigrant families together feel more real in the immigrant community, which I represent.
When I became president and CEO of the National Council of La Raza, I really had a chance to engage with him as he took on this important role as the director of USCIS.
As a young Latina, what I see in Alejandro, and something that I would strive to be, is an integral person. I feel that Alejandro Mayorkas is a man with a lot of integrity and a man with a lot of leadership.
As Director of Advocacy and Policy for the United We Dream Network, the first and largest immigrant youth-led network in this country, we had led this campaign that pushed President Obama to deliver on his promise to stop deporting undocumented immigrant youth. And as such, my point person in the administration was Director Alejandro Mayorkas. I walked into that meeting with a small level of optimism. And even though I had those doubts going into that meeting, my first interaction with him kind of really shattered all of that. I felt like I was sitting across from someone who had a vision about how to implement this program and who had a real commitment with our community.
He's worked very hard, and I think we've seen great progress where over 250,000 dreamers have now been processed so that they have this deferred action. This was an enormous task.
The entire process of having a young American who doesn't have documentation to come out of the shadows, have the confidence that he or she could do that without jeopardizing the other family members, without jeopardizing a chance to continue in school. You've got to put a lot of faith in the process. Ali Mayorkas made sure that the process had integrity, that people could trust the process on all sides.
I think that Ali is truly a role model. He is dedicated and he leads with a commitment to openness and honesty and transparency, and it is a rare thing to find.
If I had to give you a word to describe him, I'd say he's incisive. I love that word. I learned it when I was young, and I thought to myself, wow, incisive. Go right to the heart of things. None of this clutter, boom, right to it. And in politics, you probably know this. You get a lot of folks who say a lot of things, but then at the end say nothing. This is a guy who, almost with a look, but with a few words, boom, right to it. And I think that's what made him such a great advocate, such a great attorney, is he knew how to get right to the heart of things and persuade you, convince you.
I think he's a perfect example of a strong Latino leader, someone who is committed, someone who listens to the community and doesn't forget where he comes from.
Everyone knows that Latinos will be a majority in this nation. And some people talk about 2040, some people talk about 2050, but we're definitely getting there. And I think that ensuring that we have a population that are citizens, ensuring that we have a population that are not undocumented but have their papers and are out of the shadows is something really important, not just for our community, but for the country as a whole. And I think that Alejandro Mayorkas really understands that and is forward-thinking.
You know, Ale Mayorkas is one of those individuals that when we look back 50 years from now and you see that we were on the cusp of changing and transforming our immigration system, he will have been a key figure in opening those doors to our system of legalization and to a pathway to citizenship for our community. And in the same way that people have looked at others, maybe it was the Underground Railroad, maybe it was those individuals who helped the Jews escape through World War II. I'm telling you that Ale Mayorkas is one of those individuals who will have helped hundreds and thousands in our community be part of this country and have that opportunity at the American dream and citizenship.
So Maldiv is proud to present its Excellence in Government Service Award to Director, the ever-incisive Alejandro Mayorkas.
Thank you. Dear Mrs. Laurie, I want to thank you and to thank this great nation for giving me a chance to find a refuge for my life and to protect me from being harmed and from death. I want to show my endless appreciation and deepest regards to you and your time and consideration to help and save me and protect me in a way that made me feel that I am a human with rights to live and have a future. In addition, I want to express my family's thanks, and especially my mom, who want to tell you that she wouldn't forget you as I live, and I wish that I will be given a chance to repay the United States of America for its protection. In its history, our nation has often stood as a place of refuge and shined as a beacon of hope and opportunity for those who seek a better life for themselves and their loved ones. The note I just read is from an individual who fled immense difficulty and arrived in the United States with a yearning for a future unlike his past. The gratitude he expresses is for a nation unlike any other, a nation that always has been and forever will remain a nation of immigrants. The Mexican-American Legal Defense and Educational Fund is a guardian of this America. For more than 45 years, Maldiv has championed the rights of immigrants to ensure that each generation of newcomers is welcomed, can contribute, and can achieve its dreams in America. Each and every one of you who works with Maldiv under the leadership, the brilliant and committed leadership of Tom Sines, has, for your dedicated work, earned the very same gratitude that is expressed in the note that I just read. You have also earned the gratitude of countless others to whom you have provided a path to freedom, security, and opportunity. In the 1982 landmark Supreme Court decision of Plyler versus Doe, Maldiv secured for undocumented children the right to public education. Before then and since, Maldiv has stood and fought for the principle that each and every Doe has a name, is a person, and deserves a future. I am honored. I am honored to work with you to help realize the possibilities of what it means to be a nation of immigrants, a nation that welcomes and embraces those who share our ideals and who dream of making America their home. We are on the threshold of seeing once distant dreams become a reality. For the immigrant youth who were brought here as children, for mothers, fathers, spouses, and children who wait to be united with their loved ones, and for the undocumented who have put down their roots here and who are contributing to our nation's well-being today and who are part of its prosperous tomorrow. My parents brought my sister and me to this country in 1960. We arrived in Miami as a family of political refugees who escaped the communist takeover of Cuba. Like many of today's immigrants, my parents, my beloved parents, came to build a better life for themselves and came to ensure that their children would grow up with opportunities that we would not have in Cuba. Yet I do not think my parents could have imagined that their son would years later be leading the great people of U.S. citizenship and immigration services. They could not have imagined that I would have the honor of administering the oath of allegiance to newly naturalized Americans. And my parents could not have imagined that I would be working in collaboration with an organization such as MALDEF to improve the lives of future immigrants in our adopted community. In the words of Cesar Chavez, we cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others for their sakes and for our own. In this room are my friends, mentors, and role models. My parents would look around this room and be proud to know that I am with you, just as I am deeply honored this evening to be considered your colleague. Thank you for this incredible honor.
Thank you, Alejandro, for your strong leadership and for serving as an advocate for our community. Our next awardee is a man of great poise, environmental consciousness, and an esteemed leader in solar energy. Ken Salazar is a fifth-generation son of this great state of Colorado, who was confirmed as the 50th Secretary of the U.S. Department of Interior on January 20th, 2009. As Secretary of the Interior, Salazar launched an aggressive reform agenda to restore the Interior's independence and its integrity, overhauling offshore oil and gas development oversight, and raising the bar on safety standards. He spurred a renewable energy revolution at the Interior with the largest solar energy projects in the world now under construction, and a dynamic plan for renewable energy in America's oceans. Prior to his confirmation, Salazar served as Colorado's 35th U.S. Senator, and before that, as Colorado's 36th Attorney General. He's a farmer, a farmer for more than 30 years in Colorado. Salazar was a partner with his family in El Rancho Salazar, where they have farmed and ranched the same land in the San Luis Valley for 5 generations. Let's take a look at the Honorable Salazar's video profile.
I was in Colorado, and I was there meeting with a number of folks. Ken Salazar was the Attorney General, and when I had a chance to meet him, what struck me was that I felt like I knew him. He approaches you, and right away you feel really comfortable.
Ken is about doing what is right. It's not about what's right for the party or what's right for, gains, economic gains, political. It's not. He talks and he knows this is the right way to do this, and this is what we have to do, because you do what is right, not what is expedient.
He's the first Latino elected to statewide office in Colorado, ever. And he didn't do that just once. He did that 3 times in a little over 6 years. When The General Assembly in Colorado in the early 2000s attempted to do a congressional redistricting after there had already been a redistricting. He sued the Secretary of State, the enforcing officer for the redistricting plan, and everybody said, we don't have any authority to sue. The legislature passed this law. Ken Salazar said, no, that's not right. And he sued them. Colorado Supreme Court agreed with Ken Salazar. They said that the Attorney General of Colorado had powers beyond that provided to the Attorney General in state statute. That was an amazing ruling, and it was unanimous.
I know that when he was first nominated to be Department of Interior Secretary, there were a lot of folks in the environmental community who were skeptical. But Ken, growing up in Colorado, in a place where minerals and development of those minerals is an important part of Colorado life. We're grazing your animals, we're growing crops, big issues. Somehow, I think at the end of his tenure as Secretary of Interior, people will now be able to say that this guy listened. He was very good on any number of environmental issues, and he was also someone who tried to take into account the interests of not just the country, but of the regions, of the western states.
He created a renewable energy revolution on this nation's public lands and waters from zero. He created a whole new regulatory scheme in response to Deepwater Horizon. He developed a 21st century conservation program that doesn't depend upon the federal government spending millions of dollars to acquire lands because we don't have the budget for that anymore. Instead, his 21st century conservation agenda stresses partnerships with state and local governments and stakeholders to preserve working lands and to connect American people up to the great outdoors.
When I think about Ken's legacy, I think more so about an incredible ability that he has to bring different people together to solve a problem. We need people like Ken who can bring people together to the same table to solve the issues in our country. That's leadership, and to me, that is the legacy that he has, I hope he's known for.
Well, what do you say about a guy that's done just about everything? He's been Attorney General for his state. He's been U.S. Senator. He's been a member of the President's Cabinet. Ken Salazar has been a leader for this country, and he's done it the right way. And I think he would tell you he's proud of the way he did it, because he did it his way, not some politician's way.
Ken Salazar has the strongest moral compass of anybody I know. That provides the confidence and the degree of certainty he has in the positions he takes, even though they may be unpopular or they may be strongly challenged by others.
This is a man who has a heart way bigger than he should have. And he uses his brains to get things done, but at the end of the day, his compass is right here.
MALDEF is proud to recognize the former United States Secretary of the Department of the Interior, the Honorable Ken Salazar, with its Lifetime Achievement Excellence in Government Service Award. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you so much, John, and to everybody who is here, because you stand for the very best of the progress that we have made in America and the progress still to be made in these United States and truly around the world. MALDEF has been a cornerstone in my own life, from the Keys litigation in Denver in the 1980s to my desire to work for MALDEF as I was graduating from the University of Michigan Law School. And so it's an honor to receive this award. I'm humbled and I'm honored, and frankly, I think there are so many other people who are more worthy of receiving this award. So Tom, to you, to the members of the board, to those who worked on putting this event together, I want to thank you for honoring me with this award. I also want to say congratulations to Director Mayorkas. What a story of a human being who is not afraid of taking on the most difficult issues. And to get us to the right result, I think Director Mayorkas deserves another round of applause. And he's still so young, he has a big future ahead of him. And we often think about how far we have come as a society and as a nation, whether it's on gender rights, on voting rights, on making sure that we're tearing down the walls of discrimination. I cannot think of a work that is more important than making sure that the women of these United States and this world are having the kind of opportunity that someday will see us having a woman sitting in the Oval Office in the White House. And the world will be a much better world. It'll be a much better world when we have people like Ana standing up all around the world, leading us into the next century and even beyond. So let's give her another round of applause. Thank you, Ana. So I want to make two quick points tonight. First, I have been a person that has truly lived the American dream in so many different ways, from a place in the San Luis Valley named Los Rincones, where we would look out the front steps of our ranch house and we would see the range of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the blood of Christ, off to the east. And if you look to the west, you would see the San Juan Mountains, named after St. John the Baptist. And right through the middle of the ranch, the Rio San Antonio and the Cerro San Antonio, flowing as a tributary into the Rio Grande, flowing all the way through New Mexico and into the Texas-Mexico border. And yet it was a place without much in terms of the material goodness and richness that many of us have in this day. We didn't have electricity, we didn't have telephone. Our neighbors were about 5 miles away as we were growing up. And yet I had a set of parents, a mother and a father, who were very proud people in this country, who had seen what it was like to be both in New Mexico and Colorado century after century. For their parents, some 11 generations before them, had come in and founded a place that they named the City of Holy Faith, the city of Santa Fe, now 400 some years ago. And as the president sometimes likes to remind people as he introduces me, he says that the border came across Ken's family. It's not the other way around. And so we have a long history and a long tradition and a long heritage that we need to celebrate. And as we celebrate that heritage and we celebrate that history, we're not saying that our history or our heritage is any better than anybody else's, because everybody is entitled to have esteem and respect and dignity for who they are and for what their history is. And so whether you're Asian American, African American, German American, Latino American, that's a history that needs to be celebrated. And so as I come here tonight, I'm reminded that in my own journey, and I see many of the people who have been a part of that journey from day one, you have given me the opportunity to serve. Yes, they said you could not have a Latino elected as Attorney General in my state back in 1998. Yes, they told me in 2004 that we were running against a colossus for the United States Senate and that there was no way that a Democrat could win in Colorado. And yet we won by 5 points. And yet, even in my role as a member of President Obama's cabinet, I have been honored to advance the cause of equal rights and opportunity for the young people of America, for diversity, for the understanding of making sure that our national park system really does reflect the diversity of America. And so that has been really, for me, a dream which I have gotten to live. So my only hope is that there are many other people like Ellie and Ana and all of you who are here who are able to live that same kind of dream. And I see it with so many people who are here, people who I have helped along the way, who have helped me along the way, including John Padilla, who works in the Department of Interior, Francisco Carrillo, who is running a great part of the America's Great Outdoors still today. Felicia Escobar. Hey, I want you all to stand up. You know, we need to celebrate you. Stand up, Felicia. Yeah, inside the White House right now. Stand up, Francisco. I still have some remnant authority. Okay. So, another person, Julie Rodriguez, inside. Stay standing, Julie Rodriguez. Please stand up, please stand up. So, let me just put this a little bit in historical perspective. I want you to stay standing, Julie. I mean, this is really a neat thing. You know, who would have thought that, even 10, 15 years ago, that the President of the United States would visit La Paz and to honor an icon of civil rights and inclusion for all, Cesar Chavez would make La Paz a national park within the United States National Park System. That happened because of these people here. Now, who would have thought some years ago that in a White House, which is really the nerve center, yes, of the United States, but really of the entire world, that you would have these two Latinas essentially in charge with Cecilia Munoz, the chairperson of the Domestic Policy Council, essentially running the immigration reform effort to achieve comprehensive immigration reform in the United States of America. So, as proud as I am of this achievement, I am even more proud of what is to come. And as Tom so well knows, when you start thinking about the demographics of America, more than 50 million Latinos now a part of the 300 million plus Americans we have here, the future of this nation is so dependent on us looking at the diversity of this country and celebrating it. I will leave you with my second and final point, and that is that even as we engage in this immigration reform effort, I agree with everything that my wonderful friend and colleague Eric Holder said a few minutes ago about immigration reform. I know where the president's heart is on this because I had the honor of working with Ted Kennedy and then Senator John McCain on the first immigration effort. I worked on the second one as well with President Bush and other people who were involved. But we are at a time where in the weeks and months ahead, this reality is going to unfold. And it is my view and my fervent hope and prayer that we will in fact see comprehensive immigration reform achieved. But I have been in the crucible of those battles in my lifetime. And there are some things that we ought to be concerned and we ought to be worried about. We should be worried about the question of border security and how that ultimately is dealt with. Yes, for all those who are advocates of border security, and I certainly am one, that we need to know who is coming into our country, and we need to make sure that we are protecting the homeland and we're protecting the United States of America and its citizens. But we ought to make sure as well that we don't get sold a bill of goods that essentially creates an inequitable effort relative to border security, that essentially creates a wall between what is Latin America and the United States, and the 5,000 miles of the northern border and other places around the country are not addressed in the same way. Because to do so would be for us to buy into the proposition that somehow the history of the geographic and political reality of the United States of America and Latin America somehow has left us to assume that there is this principle that there ought to be a division between the United States of America and Latin America by a wall. And I often remember more about some of our presidents in the past, including Ronald Reagan, to help us guide our future as we look for great achievements in our country. And I remember the kinds of decisions that President Lincoln made during that war as his own mind evolved over time about what it is that that Civil War was about. And it wasn't, for him at the beginning, really about the end of slavery, but it became such as he came to realize that it was such a moral imperative, and as he signed the Emancipation Proclamation in a crucible of thinking that actually took place at Fort Monroe in Southern Virginia. And I'm reminded of Ronald Reagan standing up at the Berlin Wall and saying to then the president of Russia, Mr. Gorbachev, take down that wall. Now, I don't quarrel, and I was part of these efforts in the past in terms of making sure that we have the right border security. But we ought not to just have it focused on the southern border, because border security is about security everywhere. And you and I, MALDEF, and all of us who care about making sure that the past patterns and practices of discrimination that we've seen here in this country are not repeated again in our great quest and our noble effort and the President's great leadership to put together a comprehensive immigration reform package. Let's just make sure that when it comes across the finish line, when the President signs that bill on his desk, which will happen, Director Mayorkas, I'm confident, before the August recess, when that happens, that we can all celebrate the union of people who have brought together a just and moral solution to a broken immigration system here in the United States of America. Mil gracias. Si se puede. Yes, we can. I love you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Salazar, and best wishes in everything and all that you do now. And now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing a leader who has dedicated his life's work to advancing the rights of Latinos in our country. He's one of our nation's most respected and experienced civil rights lawyers, and he's responsible for many of MALDEF's renowned settlements and courtroom victories on behalf of the Latino community. MALDEF's President and General Counsel, Tom Saenz.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here this evening. And what a truly, truly extraordinary evening it has been. I begin, of course, with expressions of acknowledgement and gratitude to those responsible for this extraordinary evening. John Quiñones, our masterful Master of Ceremonies, thank you so much for joining us tonight. To Attorney General Eric Holder, thank you for joining us and sharing your wisdom about the critical policy challenges that tie so closely to the history of MALDEF in its 45 years of civil rights advocacy. Thank you again, of course, for allowing us to recognize you, to our three truly inspiring honorees. The energetic and eloquent Ana Chavez. Now, what she didn't tell you is that I've known Ana, I'm much older, but we were in college together, and it's truly, truly inspirational to see you in the position that you are today, leading the Girl Scouts and all of the women and Americans across the country. The hardworking and incisive, you know that that will stick with you forever. Alejandro Mayorkas, Ali, you truly have made true the path to acknowledgement and recognition of the contributions of the Dreamers, and in doing so, you have paved the way for redemption of America in being true to its values. Thank you. And to the wise and committed Ken Salazar, in addition to all of the accolades, acknowledgments that were in the video, we know that you have done more than any single individual to ensure that this country incorporates in its formal acknowledgement of our history and contributions, the contributions of our own Latino community. And that is a legacy that will be with us for centuries. Thank you very much. And of course, I have to acknowledge those who are responsible for arranging this extraordinary evening for us. You've heard their names before, but I need to thank once again our staff, David Damian Figueroa, Cynthia Gutierrez, Stephanie Loera, and Jose Delgado for putting together such an extraordinary, extraordinary program tonight. This is so often a gathering of friends, and here tonight we have a number of former MALDEF board members, current MALDEF board members, newly elected MALDEF board members who will begin their service on May 1. If I could ask all of those who fall in those categories of former, current, immediately forthcoming MALDEF board members to please stand. Thank you for all of your ongoing support of the important mission of MALDEF. Please stand. And to the MALDEF staff, acknowledged by name by our regional counsel, Jim Furkadima, here in DC, but throughout the nation for the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis to promote a vision of an America that is true to its constitutional principles and values and that incorporates all of us in our future prosperity. To the MALDEF staff who are here, please stand and accept the acknowledgement of all of us for your ongoing efforts. I want to acknowledge those at the Mayflower who have prepared our meal, this setting, and have served us throughout the evening for all of their efforts and their contributions tonight, here throughout the year, and with their families in making this a better nation. In the last 10 days, our nation and the Latino community has lost two civil rights icons, both of them models of tenacity and righteousness in fighting for education equity for Latino students in California and in Texas. On April 15th, Sal Castro passed away. Sal Castro was an educator, a leader in the Chicano blowouts that you heard mentioned earlier by our Attorney General, perhaps the first time that an Attorney General has mentioned the Chicano blowouts. But Sal Castro was a leader of those walkouts, and even when that did not yield the education equity that he sought, he kept at it, founding the Chicano Latino Youth Leadership Program and working throughout his life to try to ensure better opportunity for Latinos throughout California and across the nation. And a mere 2 days ago, we lost Demetrio Rodriguez. You may recognize the name Rodriguez. This happens to be the 40th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that bears his name, San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez, a decision in 1973 that regrettably and wrong-headedly concluded that our Constitution does not recognize education as a fundamental right. But Mr. Rodriguez, who was a plaintiff in that case and a member and leader of the concerned parents of the Edgewood School District, did not give up when those justices made that deplorable decision. He continued on, and working with MALDEF and others, pursued his dream of education equity in the Texas state court system through Edgewood versus Kirby, the first of many, the most recent, only recently concluded by MALDEF lawyers a few weeks ago in Texas, but the first of many challenges to the financial inequities in the Texas school system. Sal Castro in California, Demetrio Rodriguez in Texas. These are folks whose names may not be known to many outside of this room, but whose contributions as civil rights heroes will endure for many, many years to come. They will endure because of their example of tenacity. You lose in the Supreme Court, you continue the fight. The blowouts don't produce what you want, you create another solution. their tenacity, and their righteousness is the legacy that they leave for all of us. These critical character attributes belong to many communities, but they clearly belong to the Latino community. Tenacity and righteousness characterize the 45-year commitment of MALDEF to a better America, to a civil rights recognizing America, to an inclusive America. Now we have and will face challenges, as Castro and Rodriguez did. Some of those challenges have appeared in the 10 months since we last met here. There are cases before the United States Supreme Court that threaten not just the right to vote in Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act as described by the Attorney General, but also that threaten the dream, the essential necessity of equal opportunity to attend higher education. Now, whatever the outcome of these decisions from the Supreme Court, and I must acknowledge our partner, you saw earlier one of our partners in Sodexo, I want to acknowledge another partner, the law firm of Sidley Austin, for their work with MALDEF in preparing the amicus brief in Shelby County versus Holder, the Supreme Court case that could decide the viability of Section 5. But whatever the outcome of those Supreme Court decisions, the examples of tenacity from Castro and Rodriguez will be ones that we live out through our continued efforts to ensure the right of every person to vote, to ensure the right of every child to aspire and achieve a higher education. And yes, tenacity will pay off in 2013 in comprehensive immigration reform. The start in legislation that was released last week is a promising one. It provides the promise of a recognition of the contributions of the 11 million who have raised families, contributed to our economy, built our neighborhoods, built our communities, and done so without full protection of the law. It lays out the promise of an immigration system that may better represent and embody the constitutional principles and values that we all share, from those who can trace their ancestry 5 or more generations to those who have most recently arrived, whether as lawful permanent residents or undocumented. We share a commitment to those constitutional principles. It is high time that we had an immigration policy and system that recognizes and embodies those constitutional values and principles. And there is promise that through this legislative debate, we will end up with such a system. But with that promise, of course, there is peril. The greatest peril lies in our failing to convince policymakers that the story of November 2012 was not a story about numbers, though certainly it's gratifying to have belatedly recognized the critical importance of the numbers of Latino voters who have participated over years and years in our democratic exercise. But it is not about numbers. It's about that second legacy of Castro and Rodriguez. It is about righteousness. It is about our community voting for righteous policy, not for policy that may be labeled immigration reform but fails to embody the principles to which we are dedicated. The greatest peril is in failing to ensure that they understand on Capitol Hill that the message of November was a message of righteousness. But we can navigate their peril, and we will. There will be obstacles, whether in the form of a Texas judge who articulates a preliminary decision that somehow, in a manner that no one with a knowledge of the law would have anticipated, that the long-standing practice of discretion in the executive, housed with the authority, the exclusive constitutional authority to establish our immigration policy and practice, that somehow that long tradition and history might be outside the law. But these obstacles, like that decision, I am confident, like that preliminary decision from that Texas judge, I am confident, these obstacles will be fleeting and feeble. Whether in the form of a Tea Party that refuses to acknowledge that the true legacy of the founders they invoke and costume, that the true legacy of those founders can be found in an acknowledgement that this is a nation of immigrants, that this is a nation that acknowledges and incorporates those who dedicate through their toil, through their blood, through their family upbringing, their devotion to the constitutional values that tie us together. I am confident that with tenacity and righteousness, those obstacles will be fleeting and quickly overcome, and that we, in this room and beyond, will work together to ensure that the legacy of Sal Castro and Demetrio Rodriguez is realized for every American. We will accomplish that great goal through your continued partnership and collaboration in our joint mission of making real that legacy of tenacity and righteousness. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you all for your ongoing partnership and friendship.
Thank you, Tom Sines. Thank you. And how about another round of applause for each of our honorees tonight, please? Yes. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's program. On behalf of all our guests, honorees, and the entire MALDEF team, have a wonderful night, and thank you for coming out to MALDEF's 2013 Washington, D.C. Awards Gala. Buenas noches. Good night. Thank you.